Hey guys, welcome to NTI Day 18. If you remember yesterday, we talked a little bit about today. If you can see here, we're going to have a passage today that's a little bit longer than the ones we've been having. And then down here, some of the questions, but I'm going to go through those questions and I'm going to help you with at least one from each section so you'll know how to get those done. And it's not super hard. But it is a little bit longer. Remember, every Wednesday we're going to have these that are a little bit longer. Okay? All right. So our passage today is called The Mystery of the Quilt Codes. So let's go ahead and get started. And remember, my little highlight there on the screen is where I'm going to be reading, okay? So if you need to come back in the passage, you'll be able to tell where I'm reading based on where that little highlighted circle is. Okay, the mystery of the quilt codes. Quilts can be used to keep warm on a cool night. They can be decorative objects. They can be passed along from one generation to the next. But did you ever think that quilts could be used to communicate or send messages? Some people believe that quilts made by slaves were used to give information to other slaves who were planning to escape on the Underground Railroad. The Underground Railroad was not actually a railroad. It was the name used for the system that helped slaves travel north, where they could live freely. This trip was very dangerous for slaves. If they were caught, their lives were in danger. Ozella McDaniel said that she had learned the secret codes of the quilts from her relatives. Her ancestors had been slaves. The codes were passed down to her through the generations. The patterns in the quilts contained messages about the journey north. The escaping slaves would memorize the message so they could take the information with them without being caught. Some of the syllables McDaniel said the slaves used in the quilts were the log cabin, the wagon wheel, the bear's paw, and the star. The log cabin told slaves to look for safe houses. The wagon wheel let them know they were about to go on a long trip. The bear's paw told the slaves to walk north over the Appalachian Mountains. Also, bears know where to find water and berries. If the slaves ran out of food on their journey, following bear prints could help them survive. The star pattern let the slaves know they should follow the North Star toward freedom. Not everyone believes that slaves used quilts this way. Unfortunately, none of the quilts have survived long enough to prove the stories. Also, the stories were not written down by the slaves. Instead, they were passed down through oral tradition or storytelling. The historians who study this time in history do not all agree about the meanings of slave quilts. They have different opinions about the purpose of the quilts. We may never know the truth behind the quilts. They were made so long ago. However, the work of historians and the legends of storytellers may bring us a bit closer to figuring out the mysteries of the quilts. All right, a lot of interesting information in that little passage. Now let's go down to our questions. I'm going to take off my little highlight there and let's get a pen. All right, so number one, it says find a synonym in the article for each of the words below. Now, a synonym, sometimes we get a little caught up on that. Remember, synonyms are words that mean the same. Okay? So, right here, number one, our word is colorful. And right here under the line, it's telling me that the synonym for colorful is in paragraph 1. So let's go back up to the passage. Paragraph 1. Now look, if you'll notice here, Right here beside the paragraphs, it's going to tell you what paragraph you're working with, okay? So here we got paragraph 1, paragraph 2, paragraph 3, paragraph 4, 5, and 6, okay? So the last question said the synonym for the word colorful is going to be in paragraph 1. So I'm going to look right here. And remember, if it helps you, go back to where I'm reading the passage and listen to paragraph 1 and see if you can find the word that means the same thing as colorful. Let's read it real quick. I'm going to help you out with number 1. Quilts can be used to keep warm on a cool night. They can be decorative objects. They can be passed along from one generation to the next. But did you ever think that quilts could be used to communicate or send messages? All right, so what word in that passage could be the same thing as colorful? I think I see it right here. That word is decorative, okay? I believe that is our answer for a word that means the same thing as colorful, okay? So let's go back down to our questions. And right there for number 1, I'm going to write decorative. Okay? Now remember, the best way to find synonyms in a passage is which of these words that they give you can go into where you can take one word out and add that word. Okay? So in our first paragraph, if you take out the word decorative and you add the word colorful, it's still going to make sense. Okay? So if we'll look at number 2, the word is journey, and it's in paragraph 2. Now also look at number 3. The word is captured, and that synonym is also in paragraph 2. So when you go back up to the passage to paragraph 2, you're going to look for a synonym for the word journey and a synonym for the word captured. Okay? And number 4, the word is relatives, and that's in paragraph 3. Okay? So all the synonyms you still need to find since we did number 1 together are going to be from paragraphs 2 and paragraphs 3. Okay? So one more time. Number 2 is journey. Number 3 is captured. And number 4 is relatives. All right, let's look at number 5. The directions here for 5, 6, and 7 say circle the words in each row that are part of the same word family. Now remember, when we're talking about word families, we're talking about the sound at the end of the word. Okay? So number 5, it says IGHT. IGHT makes the sound it. Remember, IGH can sometimes make the long I sound I. And so if you put a T on the end of that, then you're going to have it. Okay? So let's look at our first word. Moonlight. Now, is that word moonlight part of the it family, IGHT? Yeah, it's right there at the end. So I'm going to circle moonlight. Now look at our next word. That word is fright. Does that end in IGHT, it? Yeah, so I'm going to circle fright. The third word is excite. Now, do you hear it at the end of excite? I do. But how is it spelled? You get the long I sound from the actual letter I with an E on the end of the word. Okay? So that is more a part of the, if we can see this here, the I blank silent E family and not IGHT. Okay? So that is not part of the family. And the last word is frost. I don't even have a long I in the word frost. So that's definitely not part of the family. So for number 5, our correct answers are moonlight and fright because they are part of that IGHT family. Okay? All right, number 6. The family is OUGHT. OUGHT, OUGHT. Which of those 4 words are part of that family? Here's those 4 words. Fought, bought, fox, and boot. So which of those words are part of the OUGHT family? And the last one, O-U-L-D, is ould. That sound is ould. Okay? So the first word here, should. Then we have cold, could, and would. Now, I'll tell you, on one of those, I did hear ould on the end, but it is not with an O-U-L-D. Okay? So make sure we're just circling those that end in O-U-L-D. All right? Let's move on down here to number 1 under reading skills. This is not the easiest thing to switch between all these guys. Okay, there we go. Reading skills. Number 1. Check the sentence below that is the best summary for paragraph 4. Okay? So, the first thing we need to do if it says the best summary for paragraph 4 is what? I heard it from somebody. We need to go back and we need to read paragraph 4, don't we? So let's go back up to the passage. Paragraph 4 is right here. So we need the best summary for that paragraph, okay? Now, I don't want to read it again because I don't want this video to be 30 minutes long. So go back and listen to me read paragraph 4. And we're going to go back down to the questions. And there's only 2 possible answers, so let's look at them real quick. Hopefully by this time you've re-listened to me reading paragraph 4. The first one says, some people think that patterns like the log cabin, the wagon wheel, the bear's paw, and the star were used to tell secret codes. And the second one says, the bear's paw told the slaves to walk north over the mountains. Now, did they talk about the bear's paw telling the slaves to walk north over the mountains in paragraph 4? They did. But was that the summary for the entire paragraph, or was that just something that happened in the paragraph? Because I seem to remember that was just something that happened in the paragraph. So was the summary of the entire paragraph that some people think that patterns like the log cabin, the wagon wheel, the bear's paw, and the star were used to tell secret codes? I think that's definitely the best summary. So I'm going to check that. Okay? All right. Number 2. What was the Underground Railroad? Now, I want you guys to answer that one on your own. It was in the first paragraph or 2, if I remember right. And remember, if you're not sure, go back into the passage and just look for Underground Railroad. And then read the sentence or the sentences before and after where you see Underground Railroad in the first paragraph or 2. And that'll tell you what the Underground Railroad was. Okay? Number 3, what did a star pattern on a quilt mean? Now, you should have just heard me reread paragraph 4. I'm pretty sure that's where they talk about the star pattern. So go up back to paragraph 4 and look for star pattern and tell me what that meant. Okay? And number 4, why did the slaves want to travel north? Hopefully you remember that, or you already do, or you can go back and look for that word north. Okay? Why did the slaves want to travel north? All right. Let's clear that. We'll go back up to the second column here. Number 5. Why don't historians for certain whether the quilts were used by slaves to communicate information about escaping. So why don't they know that for sure? Let's take a look back up at the passage real quick. So you're going to want to look here in paragraphs 5 and 6. And that'll give you an idea of why historians don't know for sure what the quilts were used for. Okay? So listen to paragraphs 5 and 6 again. All right, back to the questions. Number 6. Do you think? Okay, so I already know. This question says, do you think? So this is going to be your opinion. So the answer is not going to be in the passage. You have to come up with your opinion, okay? Do you think the mystery of the slave quilts will be solved in the future? Why or why not? So we learned at the end of that passage, it said some historians aren't sure about the quilts. So do you think there will ever be a time where the historians will be sure? Okay? So just put your opinion there for number 6. And you can just start it off with, I think, and then tell me what you think, okay? Now, down here, numbers 7, 8, and 9 can be a little vocabulary stuff. So if you'll notice on number 7, we'll do this one together. We've got 3 words down here. And we're going to see which one goes best in the blank, okay? So number 7 says, quilts may have been used to pass blank to other slaves. Okay, so let's look at our 3 words. Our 3 words are information, generations, and long. I'm sorry, information, generations, and patterns. Okay, so let's put each of those words in the blank. See which one sounds right. Number 7, quilts may have been used to pass information to other slaves. That sounds like it could be right, so I'm going to leave that one. Let's look at the other ones. Quilts may have been used to pass generations to other slaves. Can you pass generations? I don't think so. I'm going to mark that one out. And then quilts may have been used to pass patterns to other slaves. I'm not sure I can mark that one out because it's not super wrong. So what do we think? Do we think it's quilts may have been used to pass information to other slaves? Or may have been used to pass patterns to other slaves? That's just one where we're going to have to come up with what we think is the correct answer. And I think the correct answer is information. So I'm going to circle information. I think it makes most sense that quilts may have been used to pass information to other slaves. Okay? All right, number 8. None of the quilts blank long enough for historians to study. Our 3 words are agreed, survived, and proved. So I'll read the sentence with each of those words, and you circle which one you think is right. None of the quilts agreed long enough for historians to study. None of the quilts survived long enough for historians to study. Or none of the quilts proved long enough for historians to study. I think there's definitely one that sounds the most correct. So let's look at number 9. Some historians have blank ideas about the purpose of the quilts. So number 1, or the first possible answer, few. Some historians have few ideas about the purpose of the quilts. The second word, studied. Some historians have studied ideas about the purpose of the quilts. The last word, different. Some historians have different ideas about the purpose of the quilts. All right? So we'll go ahead and clear that out. And come back to the last section here called study skills. Okay, so this is not something we work on a lot in class. So we'll just do all 3 of these together. So make sure you pay attention and get the right answer down, okay? So these are guide words. Remember, at the top of a page in a dictionary, you're going to have 2 words. One of them is going to be the first word on the page, and one of them is going to be the last word on the page. Okay, so if we look here for numbers 1, 2, and 3, we've got 2 words, and we're gonna act like those are the 2 words at the top of the dictionary page. So for number 1, the first word on that page is answer, and the last word on that page is appear. So what we want to do with these 3 possible answers they've given us, if we're putting all of these words in alphabetical order, one of these 3 possible answers would come between answer and appear in alphabetical order. Okay? So, if I'm looking at these 3, anteater, apple, and annex, I know that annex, A-N-N, is going to come before the A-N-S in answer. So annex is going to be on the page before this one. Apple, A-P-P-L-E, is going to come after appear, A-P-P-E. So that's the next page. Anteater, A-N-T, is going to come after the A-N-S in answer and before the A-P-P of appear. So our answer for number 1 is anteater. Okay? Number 2, wheel and wing. Our 3 possible words: wind, wax, and wear. The word wind, W-I-N-D, is going to come after wheel and before wing. So that's our answer. We don't even have to look at the other ones. Oh, wait a minute, guys. I'm just now looking up here in the directions. Check each word that could be found on a page. So let's see. Wax, W-A. No, that's going to come before wheel. So that's no good. Wear, W-H-E-R. Yeah, that one's going to come before, after wheel, and before wing. So we got 2 answers on that one, wind and wear. Okay? And then our last one, ridge and roar. So the R-I-N of rind is going to come after ridge and before roar. So that's correct. Reality, R-E-A-L, is going to come before ridge. So that's not right. And root, R-O-U, is going to come after R-O-A. So that also is not correct. Okay? So there's our answers for that last part of study skills. All right, guys, I know that was a long video today, but like I said, our Wednesday work is going to be the longest stuff that we do. So hopefully you got all of that down. And I will see you tomorrow for day 19, which is the shorter passage with just 4 questions, okay? So we'll give you a little break tomorrow. So remember, if you have any questions, let me know. Let somebody know to email me, and we can get it worked on. All right, guys, way to go. Good work today. See you tomorrow.